Y'all ready? Is everybody okay? Everybody ready? You good? Okay. I call this commission meeting to order. First order of business is invocation and the pledge. If you pray with me. Can you hear me okay on this?
Yes.
You can hear me? Okay. Our gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for the opportunities we have living in this great nation and in our county. Lord, guide our path and our decisions with wisdom as we make decisions tonight, that they be the right decisions and best for the entire community. Lord, thank you for our employees. Please bless them and keep them safe as they are about the business of our citizens. Lord, guide our path and lead us in wisdom for us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item is acceptance of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. So, Tamika, who's doing the recognition of the graduates? Tamika is.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This evening we are here to honor our participants of our very first Citizen Workshop Academy. We put out the registration. We had about 65 to register. Our goal was to have at least 35, so we did cap it at 35. We didn't want the classroom experience to be too overwhelming. We wanted it to be very personable, so we did cap it at 35. We had about 23 that constantly came and was there present at the workshop. The staff came. We had finance, we had building safety, planning and zoning, animal control. We even had elected officials, Sheriff Babb, Sheila Studdard. They all came in and did presentations. This workshop lasted for 6 weeks, and we fed them, according to them, real good. And it was a very good experience. We want to thank our participants for coming and for showing up and being part of the workshop. They are what made it successful, very engaging, great questions. I think one of the takeaways was for us as staff is not only that they were engaging, but also that they began to have community within themselves, learning about each other and learning about the different things that Fayette County offers to our citizens. So thank you to the board for suggesting it and putting it into place and having us make this happen. So at this time, I would like to present to our participants the certificate, and also we have for them laptops, for participating. So as I call your name, if you'll come up front and just stand up front, and we'll get a photo with you as well. Shaquana Nelson. Oh, and some of them couldn't be here tonight, which timing. Shaquana Nelson. Lori Sims. Yay. Kareen Aline. She couldn't be here. Diana Diaz. Cynthia Saracena. Thank you. No. Archie Moore. Mr. Archie has the same name as my cousin, so I remembered his. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Stephanie Dunson. Vicky Butler. Mark Gearhart. Pamela Parker. Sylvia Wilson. Joe Domalaski. Ken Bryant, Miss Brenda Cox, Rhonda Adams, Audrea Dunson, Adrian Bishop Klein, Gail Raby, Donna Machargi, Billy Campbell, excuse me, Craig Epps, and Dolores Epps, Jared Dag, there he is. Thank you, Jared. And last but not least, Gregory Hagar. Thank you guys. We want to say thank you so much for your participation, your questions. Did any of you have anything you want to say? Nope? Yes. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you guys.
I just want to add, this program would not have happened without Tamika. Tamika, hey, we appreciate you. You're one of the sweetest, nicest people, but you are a taskmaster when it comes to putting something together. And she did a marvelous job. These backpacks were so nice. I wanted to make sure they didn't have laptops in them because, you know, got to keep an eye. So I just really appreciate all the effort that you put into it, Tamika, and all the directors and all the department heads. It is a hugely successful program, and I know we'll be looking forward to doing one next year as well. So take a picture. Here you go. Here, let's get another picture because Ken wasn't in that one. Say, I love Tamika.
Next item on the agenda is public hearing, final public hearing for consideration of adopting our 2025 property tax millage rate. Cheryl.
Good evening, everyone. So this will be our final hearing for the millage rates to be levied for this 2025 year. The PowerPoint is pretty much the same as it has been. There is a change in one slide, but other than that, everything's pretty much the same. But we will go over it. The tax digest changes for the year. We started out at $10.2 billion. Real property increased by 0.63%. In growth, personal property growth went up 11%. Motor vehicles decreased by 8%, which is standard since TABT went into place in 2013. And the other consists of mobile homes, heavy-duty equipment, and timber. So the total growth was $144 million, or 1.41%. The increase in exemptions, in this case, it was $73 million. And so the total growth change is $70 million, which is 0.69% of the digest. Reassessments, there's some changes this year because of House Bill 581. So real property growth was $674 million, which is down from last year. That's represented by the negative red percentage, 8.59. The increase in exemption reassessments is $482 million, which is a 100% increase because we didn't have any reassessment exemptions before. This came about with House Bill 581. And so the total reassessment change is $192 million instead of $674, so it's only an increase of 1.88%, making a positive change to the digest of $262 million, making this digest $10.5 billion. This shows changes in the taxable digest since 2016. As you can see, there's been increases until 2025. There is an increase, but you can see it's much less, smaller percentage increase over the previous years. And same here, this shows the actual change year over year. You can see again, by reflected on the slide before, you can see how the changes were high, the variances were higher, and then here in 2025, it was that small increase of $262 million. The proposed millage rates for this year are 3.763 for the general county maintenance and operations. That is flat from last year, no rollback, but it's advertised as an increase, but there's no change in the millage rate. Fire services, actually, we are decreasing that millage rate. You can see by 0.25 points or 8.143%. And so it's going down to 2.82 from 3.07. EMS, we are increasing from 0.5 to 1. So it's an increase of 0.5, so it comes across as a 100% increase. And 911 services remains the same at 0.21. This is an example of a tax bill regarding an average home value of $500,000. It shows the taxable value at $200,000 and the standard homestead of $5,000. We have another slide that'll include the flexible homestead exemption, floating homestead. So you can see where the 3.7, if we had rolled back, it would have been 3.694, that number in yellow, making the increase for the year on an average $500,000 home $13.45 for the year. That would be the most it should increase because most homes are going to have some sort of floating homestead. Then EMS, you can see where the millage increases and the bill goes up by $97.50 a year. And with the decrease in fire, it decreases by $48.75. So the total increase is $62. This next slide, we used a random $500,000 piece of property, home, and pulled the floating homestead for that, which was $13,084. You can see that under the homestead column, we added it to the $5,000 standard homestead exemption, and it reduces the taxable value. So the increase in this scenario, the bill only goes up by $12.55 for the general county M&O, and slightly smaller numbers for EMS with the increase of $90 and fire decreasing by $45. This slide compares Fayette County against several metro counties and some area counties around us. You can see of these 15 counties, we are near the bottom, so around number 12, I believe. So there's much higher millage rates in some of those larger metro counties. Property tax rates, you can see since 2016, the yellow line represents the county's M&O decreasing over the years, and you can see where we are keeping it at the 3.763. Fire has been the same for many years, and this is actually a reduction by 0.25, making it 2.82. EMS is doubling to 1, and you can see where EMS has remained flat at 0.21. These next slides are examples of tax bills for various citizens in Fayette County. We're going to start with the unincorporated. Again, I'm using the $500,000 home value. The average tax bill, based on the calculations, would be $5,280. You can see the Boards of Education receives about $3,780, or 71.6% of those monies collected. The county is in green at $723, or 13.7%. And you can see fire, EMS, and 911 respectively at $540, $195, and $42. So this is for a resident that lives in unincorporated Fayette County. The next highest bill is for Town of Brooks, same value, and the tax bill is $5,561. You can see that the dollar amounts stay very close to the same with regards to Board of Education and the county. The only additional piece is the blue part, which is the yellow part, which is Brooks' actual millage. Then they are collecting 4%, or $220. Brooks pays 911, EMS, fire, county M&O, and school board in addition to theirs, because they don't have those services in Brooks. Peachtree City is the next at $5,736. Again, Board of Education and the county, it represented in that blue piece and the bright green piece, are about the same amount. Peachtree City has their own fire and EMS, so that's included in their yellow piece of the pie over there at $1,141, or just under 20% of the tax bill. We then go to City of Fayetteville, which is the next to the highest. Again, the percentages for the county and dollar amounts for Board of Education are about the same. Fayetteville has their own fire, so their fire fee is included inside the $1,100 for the yellow piece of the pie. And then they pay EMS and 911 as well. And finally, we come to Town of Tyrone with the estimated $5,905 tax bill. Again, most of these services amounts are the same. The yellow piece of the pie is for Tyrone, and it's 9.6%, or $567. And Tyrone residents also pay for county fire, EMS, and of course 911. So based upon the previous slides, we have them laid out from lowest to highest, which is how they were presented. And the variance between unincorporated and Town of Tyrone is $625 for the bill. Millage rate history since 2014, you can see in the last column is what is proposed for this year for the entities around Fayette County. Board of Education is remaining at 19.6. Brooks rolled back to 1.126. Fayetteville remained at 5.646. Peachtree City rolled back to 5.844. Tyrone remained the same at 2.889, and the county remains the same at 3.763. So this slide represents $121.9 million, because if we had not rolled back the millage rate since 2014, that is how much additional money the county would have collected for projects, et cetera. Or you can look at it as a savings to the citizens over these past years of $121.9 million. This next slide is just a generalization using a $500,000 home value. This assumes a lot that the home was the same value over the past 10, 11 years, and it's not, there's no inflation. It's just the same each year, and at that point, if basically that person would have paid another $3,058 over those 11 years. If we had, since we did roll back. And finally, we had our first public hearing on October 16th at 10 a.m. The second one was the same day at 6 p.m. And tonight is the final and third public hearing where staff requests that the BOC to adopt Resolution 2025-08 so the county can levy property taxes for this year.
Thank you, Cheryl. Are there, with this being a public hearing, we would certainly at this time take comments from those in attendance this evening. If you'd like to come and make comments at the microphone, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, I bring it back to the board. Are there questions, or what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, move to approve Resolution 2025-08, adopting the 2025 property tax millage rate.
Second.
So we got a motion and a second. Is any more questions from Cheryl or the team?
Yes.
Okay.
Cheryl, if you would, I know we have to list it, though we're staying steady, that it is increase. Explain that to our residents, please.
Right. So if you do not roll back, in this case, it would be 3.694. It has to be advertised as a tax increase, because if you roll back, you're only taking advantage of growth dollars. But in this case, you're taking advantage of both growth and reassessment dollars. So it's advertised in the paper. They show the 5-year history like they do for all the other entities. And then the notice of tax increase reflected 1.87%, because that would be the difference between what the current millage rate is and what it would have rolled back to if we did not take advantage of any reassessment.
And this might be a question you can answer or have to come from the tax commission. Have the notices gone out?
The notices have not gone out. They can't go out until this final approval. It is my understanding that they are supposed to be going out by November 15th.
By November 15th?
That
And do
is
you know when the due date might be?
It's 60 days, so it's January 15th is when they would be due.
Thank you kindly for that explanation. Thank you.
There are other questions, comments for staff? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Cheryl. Great job for the team. We appreciate that. Debbie.
Thank you. Thank you for your attendance at this public hearing for the rezoning of property conducted before the Fayette County Board of Commissioners. The Fayette County zoning ordinance requires 2 public hearings for amendments to the zoning ordinance. The first of the 2 hearings is held before the Planning Commission, and the second before the County Commissioners. This is the second of those public hearings for the amendment request presented today. At each hearing, the board will listen to the concerns of those in favor and those opposed to the case being presented. These public hearings shall be conducted with 20 minutes provided for the applicant and proponents, and 20 minutes provided for the opponents of an application for amendment. An applicant may reserve part of their allotted time for rebuttal. Staff will present the details of the request. After the presentation, the chairman will ask for those in support of the amendment to come to the podium to speak, and then he will ask for those in opposition to come to the podium to speak. Those with comments should keep the presentation brief, and groups should select a spokesperson so many different viewpoints will have the chance to be heard. When it is your turn to speak, please tell the board your name and address and direct your comments directly to and only to the board. Since these hearings are part of a permanent record, we ask that you speak clearly into the microphone so your comments are properly recorded and can be heard by those in attendance. Please complete the speaker card located at the podium so your name is spelled correctly for the record. We have one rezoning public hearing item tonight. That is number 3, consideration of petition number 1367-25, Rekha Mehta and Madhu Patel, owners, and Scott Bodkin, agent, request to rezone 4.19 acres from AR agricultural residential to OI office institutional. The property is located in land lot 58 of the 7th district and fronts on Highway 54 West. As defined in the Fayette County Comprehensive Plan, OI, office institutional, is designated for this area, so the request for OI zoning is appropriate. On October 2nd, 2025, the Planning Commission voted 5-0 to recommend approval of the request to rezone to OI. Staff recommends approval of the request to rezone from AR to OI also. If you'll pull up the maps. There we go. It's located Highway 54 West between Fayetteville and Peachtree City. Oop, it got turned off. And there we go. You can see that it's currently zoned AR, as is some of the other property around, but you can also see some OI zoning on the 54 corridor, and that is per the comprehensive plan. the future land use map shows rural residential 3. What's not reflected on the map is the State Route 54 corridor, which is what also provides for OI zoning along that corridor. There are not any significant environmental factors that affect the property. This is just an overview of the property. It is currently undeveloped. It did formerly have a house on it that has been removed. And then this is the concept provided by the applicant for the development of the property. So I don't have anything further at this time if you.
Okay. Is Scott Watkin present? Yes, would you like to come up and explain the rezoning to us, please, Scott? Okay, sure. Welcome.
My name is Allison Tringali. My address is 180 Diamond Point in Fayetteville.
My name is Brian Kagan, and my address is also 180 Diamond Point.
So you can just tell us, summarize what you want
Yeah.
out of this, please,
Okay.
or not.
Well, we'd like it rezoned to OI, and we're building a 24,000 square foot, we'd like to build a 24,000 square foot wellness center on the property.
Okay. That sounds good. We all need some wellness from time to time, no doubt about that. So this is a public hearing, and if there are those in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this rezoning, you're certainly welcome to come and share the mic at this time. Seeing none, also with it being a public hearing, those in opposition to this rezoning can come at this time and share the mic with us as well in your comments. So, seeing none, I close the public comment. Do you wish to say anything else at this time? You're good?
Nope, we're
Okay.
good.
So what's the pleasure of our board?
Mr. Chairman, move to approve petition number 1367-25.
So we got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
So we got a motion and a second. Are any comments or questions by the board at this time?
When do you think you'll be breaking ground?
I'll let you do that.
Ideally, if everything goes to plan, and of course it usually doesn't, we'll start site clearing probably closer to January, February. After that, depending on the DOT work, things like that, we're hoping to have the building erected fourth quarter next year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Just
Sure.
a
Go
question.
ahead, Chuck.
Your names again, or your last names, or,
Allison Tringali.
okay. 'Cause
And Brian Kagan.
David? I'm just looking, the names are different on this cover sheet. I don't know that it matters, but I'm just curious what the,
Yes, it's under contract.
Oh.
We're closing next week.
Yes, correct.
okay.
Other
All right.
questions? Other comments? So we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Look forward to seeing it going up.
Thank you.
Have a good day. All right, next item on the agenda is public comment. Speakers will be given a 5-minute maximum time limit to speak before the Board of Commissioners about various topics, issues, and concern. Speakers must direct comments to the board. Responses are reserved at the discretion of the board. If there are those in the audience who'd like to come there and make public comment, you're certainly welcome to come at this time. It's a quiet bunch tonight. So far, that's right. Okay. Seeing no public comment, I close that. Next item is the consent agenda. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So we got a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? on this? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Old business, there is none. New business, consideration of request from Jean Lamas. Eva Garden.
Yes. This is a consideration of a request from Jeff Lamas, developer of Eva Gardens, seeking authorization for the use of motorized cart travel on Mateo Way within the subdivision in accordance with Article 3 Motorized Carts of Fayette County Code. BOC's approval is required to designate streets for use for motorized carts. It is an internal subdivision street. Between 1995 and 2024, approximately 25 subdivisions have been approved for motorized cart use. And this is significant for this subdivision because they have a multi-use path connection to Kiwanis Park, so it will be especially helpful for them.
That's good.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the request from Jeff Lamas seeking authorization for the use of motorized cart travel on Mateo Way.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other comments? And this is a normal housekeeping kind of thing. We do this quite often, right,
Yes, sir.
Debbie? Okay. Any other comments or questions on this? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. All right, the next item is consideration of an appeal from the property owner at Environmental Management Department's denial of a watershed buffer / setback variance for 170 Layton Avenue. Rick, Lindsay, I guess you're going to start us off with this. Does it matter which
Yeah,
one we
if I
start
could
with?
just- If I could just frame it up for Rick before we start.
Sure.
What's before the board tonight is your decision to whether you're going to uphold or override the EMD's denial of the variance.
Okay.
With that, I think you can turn it over to Rick.
Okay, that'll work. Okay, Rick.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is.
It is.
Good to see you guys again. Rick Lindsay here on behalf of the applicant. My address is 200 West Park Drive, Suite 280 down in Peachtree City. I'm here this evening pleased to represent Dwight Beadle. I have Mr. Beadle here, who's right here with the standing up. Next to him is Lewis White. And I was hoping that Jason Walls, the civil engineer, would be here with us. I know he's got a scheduling conflict, but he may be walking in at some point while we're doing this presentation. So as Steve said, we're here seeking an appeal of denial of variance. I know that Brian worked very hard on that and appreciate what he did on it, but we're here seeking an appeal and hopefully a reversal of his decision. And we are seeking a variance in the watershed buffer setback requirements. This encroachment that exists right now is almost the entire footprint of the house that's in the setback. The encroachment is not the fault of Mr. Beadle, and I want to explain how all this came about. Mr. Beadle, who used to live here in Fayette County, moved out for a while and wanted to come back. He found a lot in North Haven subdivision, and that subdivision was developed many years ago, back in the late 1990s. The lot that he was interested in or is interested in is at the end of a cul-de-sac. He hired Mr. Lewis White to construct the house. Mr. White had built him a house previously in the Legacy Hills neighborhood, which is in the northern part of Fayette County. So in the spring of 2022, a request was sent to Fayette County to determine if the lot was buildable. Deborah Sims responded and said that there was a stream present on the property and that a state waters determination would be required to determine if it was a perennial stream, which would dictate the setback. The county's response also stated that the lot is eligible to receive a land disturbance permit prior to the building permit. So based on that, Mr. White hired surveyors, Hurd, Prince and Associates, to determine the exact location of the stream and to determine where a house could be located on the property. Now, the survey, and it's very important, showed the stream and showed the state water buffers of 25 feet on both sides of the stream. It did not show any other setbacks, did not show the county buffer, did not show the county setback. But using that survey, Mr. White and Mr. Beadle met at the property and then determined where to situate the house in the area that they believed you could locate the house. And this was the only involvement Mr. Beadle had in determining the location of the house. Mr. Beadle went to United Community Bank to obtain a construction loan and was granted that loan. And at some point afterwards, construction began on the property. In late July of this year, when the house is almost completed, a stop work order was issued by the county. Shortly after that, Mr. Beadle learned of the problem. In September, citations were issued both to Mr. Beadle, the property owner, and to Mr. White, the contractor. Mr. White has appeared in court and has paid fines and handled those citations. Mr. Beadle's matter that's in the state court has received continuances pending determination on the variance request, so those are still pending. Mr. Beadle initially met with me in late March of this year. Prior to that, he'd had another attorney to deal with the criminal matters in the state court. After I met with Mr. Beadle and got some more information, I met with Brian Keller and Chris Stanley and Leslie Niebuhr to discuss the matter. And all of them seemed to be sympathetic and empathetic with Mr. Beadle, understanding that he didn't cause the problem, but here we go. We've got a serious matter. I also contacted Steve Rapson, discussed this matter with him and also with Dennis Davenport, again because of the serious matter that we were dealing with. We're not talking about a porch or a little bitty corner of the house. We're talking about the entire house, basically lying in the affected area. Following that, I retained on Mr. Beadle's half Jason Walls, who is the civil engineer, to prepare a mitigation plan to deal with and address the environmental issues caused by the encroachment. I also contacted United Community Bank and got them to stop for a while, and they have continued, any collection efforts on the construction loan because of the delays that this has caused. And then a few weeks later, Jason Walls had finished the mitigation plan and went over that with him, and then I began to prepare the application for the variance to send and file with the county. Unfortunately, I was delayed in getting that application filed, and I'd like to talk to you about that. Mr. Beadle is an Army veteran. He had served his country overseas in Afghanistan. Something happened to him, unbeknownst what the exact cause was, but he began experiencing heart issues, serious heart issues. He's been treating those for several years now. His heart issues got significantly worse back in the spring and the summer, was hospitalized a few times, and he was placed on a heart transplant list. At one point during the summer, he effectively died. His heart stopped. They got him revived and rushed him to Vanderbilt Hospital. It was during this time I was trying to get him to see the mitigation plan, the application for the variance, whatnot. Well, obviously, his health issues prevented all that from happening. And I'd like to right now publicly say thank you to Brian Keller. Brian was very understanding of the delay in getting the application filed. And Brian, on behalf of Mr. Beadle, I truly, truly appreciate your patience with this. But we finally got it done, and we filed it with the county in early July. In August, Brian denied the variance, and I really was not surprised by that. This is a huge ask. I think it's probably too big an ask for staff. That's really like an administrative variance. But I don't believe it's too big an ask of the elected body, and this is why. The variance ordinance requires one of two criteria, that there are unusual circumstances. Well, we certainly have them here. Mr. Beadle was unaware of the encroachment, and the house is now almost complete. His funds are depleted. He did not cause the problem. And there really is no alternative to the location of the house. If the house were pushed back, the house that's constructed there, it would encroach into the setbacks. And furthermore, I don't know where you would locate the septic drain field. So we've submitted a mitigation plan that addresses the water quality issues and the water flow issues so that even with the encroachment, the quality of the water, the flow of the water would be the same as if the encroachment had not happened. So here I am. I got my hat in my hand asking this board to grant a variance to Mr. Beadle to correct a problem that he did not create. The variance, if granted, allows Mr. Beadle to resolve what is a bad situation, and I agree, it is a bad situation. We can fix the environmental issues. We can get the water runoff to be the same quality and the same flow rate as if the encroachment had not happened. We can get the house completed. We can get permanent financing on the home and pay off the United Community Bank loan. Mr. Beadle would finally get his permanent home, which his doctors want for him, and Mr. Beadle finally gets free of the stress that has impacted him for the last little over a year. If the variance is not granted, this bad situation is likely to get worse. Mr. Beadle does not have the funds to tear down the house and build another one. While I do not know for certain, I'd be shocked if United Community Bank will foreclose on the property. They don't want to have to tear down the house and deal with that. And the environmental issues will not go away. In fact, I think they'll probably get worse. The house will sit empty, it'll deteriorate, become an eyesore, become a nuisance. Could Mr. Beadle seek a solution with his contractor? Yes. Could go to court, but as Eric knows as well as I do, it's sometimes easy to get a judgment, but very difficult to collect. You got an insurance company or a big corporation on the other side, different matter. But when you're dealing with an individual like Mr. White, a small business owner, I doubt he has the funds to pay for tearing down that house and making Mr. Beadle whole. So I'm here seeking a real-world solution to a real-world problem. We meet the criteria for the variance. We have a plan to correct the environmental issues, and all we need is a variance from this body for all that to occur. And I have Mr. Beadle here if he would like to say anything in addition. Again, he's recovering from a heart transplant.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the time to hear me. Yes, I did have a heart transplant in July 30th, and against my doctor's wishes, I'm here to address this issue, and I agree with everything my attorney said. Never have I intended to deceive the county in any way. I've lived here before, and I decided to move back because I respect the community and I respect the area. I've tried to explain this, and I understand the situation. Again, I just want to let you know, for me, I never intended this to happen. I have not seen my family since I've been back. I have no place for them to stay. I am living in an Airbnb, so I pay $3,500 a month just for Airbnbs, plus the interest on my loan, which is another $3,000 a month. I can't afford to do it anymore. So, having said that, I know I'm limited on time. I just ask you for your forgiveness and go from there. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks, Mr. Beadle.
Thank you, Ms. Beadle. Brian?
Good evening, Board. I'd like to start off by thanking Rick. Rick has been working diligently on this problem since he was hired and trying to find a solution to this issue. But the reason we're here tonight is my denial of the watershed variance applied by Mr. Beadle and Mr. Rick Lindsay. On August 1st, I denied the variance. I denied the variance on these causes. In our ordinance, section 104.184 allows for a buffer variance only when these two conditions are available. Strict adherence to the 100-foot natural buffer and 50-foot impervious setback would create an extreme hardship, and intrusion is necessary for the functionality-dependent use and no reasonable alternative exists. I denied providing two supporting reasons. The first was in the application there was an incorrect buffer claim. The buffer cited in the variance application was a 50-foot buffer with a 25-foot setback. This has not been the case since it was platted in When it was rezoned in 1997, it has always been a 100-foot natural buffer plus a 50-foot setback. The second reason for my denial was the footprint size and various required minimums. So as you can see on this map that I just put up on the screen, or that Marlene just put up on the screen for me, this is the buffer intrusion of the house. I used the information provided from the variance application and show that 33% of the structure is inside the watershed protection buffer. 59% of the structure was inside the setback, so a total of 92% of the structure is actually located within the buffer or setback. The footprint of the building is 3,800 square feet, which is 90% larger than the minimum zoning requirement of 2,000 square feet. As provided the information from the zoning or variance application, there was 9,900 square feet of buildable area behind the home and the buffer or setback line. So for these reasons, I denied the request. I would like to go over just a little bit of the history of the property. As Mr. Lindsay said, yes, Mr. Beadle came into our office, talked with Deborah Sims. She emailed him our property evaluation form, which clearly stated there was a stream that needed a determination on it, so we could determine the buffers. We never heard back from Mr. Beadle, a surveyor, anybody along those lines. That information was then provided again in January of 2023. Again, we heard nothing back, not from a surveyor, a design professional. This is
information or the request was
there was no request or no request for information, so we were not able to get on the property to determine the stream or asked what the buffer would be on the property, not by a surveyor or by the engineer. So at that point, after that, multiple building permits in 2023 were submitted to the building through SAGE's, our online system. None of these were received by environmental management because they didn't meet the minimum requirements and taken or rejected. So once they worked through all those issues, in July 23rd of 2024, there was a submitted application that was accepted. So this is almost, a year and a half later after the first inquiry about the property. At this point, during the evaluation by my staff, it was noticed on our new aerials that a home had been constructed without a building permit, without a land disturbance permit, and so we went out and investigated along with building safety. When we arrived, there was almost a completed home on site. At that point, we issued a stop work order to get to the bottom of the case, and I believe shortly after that, 7 citations were issued to the builder. Once the stop work order was issued, for the land disturbance without a permit, we asked again to get on the site, and by August, we were granted permission to get on the site to determine the stream. The stream was determined to be a perennial stream by 2 of my staff independently and an environmental firm hired by Mr. Beadle or his surveyor. I'm not sure exactly which one. All confirmed it was a perennial stream. The perennial stream requirement or ordinance at the time that it was platted and currently is a 100-foot buffer with a 50-foot setback. At that point, once we confirmed that it was a perennial stream requiring those, I issued the watershed protection buffer and setback citations. As Mr. Rick Lindsay said, after many continuances and him getting brought on halfway through the procedure, the variance application was submitted, and again, I denied it on August 1st, 2025. I'm here to answer any questions.
So earlier, I thought I heard, and correct me if I heard it incorrectly, it was stated by Mr. Lindsay, I believe, that the original setbacks were never in the document. Did I hear you say that? In the original document?
The survey that the builder had contract, like it was 25 feet on either side of the street is what was shown on the survey.
Staff?
We received that survey, and that's what it was shown on the survey.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move to approve the appeal and to overrule the denial.
Point of order. I was still engaged.
sorry. Yeah,
It's
go
okay.
ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What are the repercussions of violating our standards? You said a perennial stream?
Yes, sir. So there's a
Tough
couple-
question, but, yeah.
It is. And I will tell you, this is one of the hardest decisions that I've had to make here at Fayette County as environmental director. I take this very seriously, and when I looked at some of the repercussions of a vote to allow this structure to stay would be the ability for somebody to build a structure inside a watershed buffer setback and any time, then come ask for a variance, me deny it, and y'all come back before your board and ask for a variance. We have had structures removed while I've been here at Fayette County that were inside the watershed protection buffer and setback. I can think of no less than 5, either basketball courts, sheds, structures, which have been placed inside a watershed buffer setback that have been removed.
Do we suffer any repercussions for the violation from oversight, state or otherwise?
Not that I am aware of.
And Ally, I guess this is for you in terms of precedent.
In terms of precedent, Brian's right. It sets up, it's a bad look for future homeowners or developers who can build in the buffer and come back after the fact and get this kind of a variance. As far as repercussions from the state, these are state guidelines. Us not following them is just us not following them. We're not going to get fined, I don't believe.
So do we anticipate any environmental negative downstream or otherwise?
Anytime you remove or put impervious surface inside a buffer or setback, it's there to help the downstream. The buffer's there to help downstream water quality, erosive velocities, and erosion of sediment. Increased impervious surface does increase the volume and the velocity in the stream. They have provided some sort of mitigation plan for that in their variance application. So one house, I don't know. There will be an increase of velocity downstream, yes, will it negatively impact it? You can get an environment or 2 different civil engineers and get 2 different answers.
So have you had a chance to review the mitigation plan?
I have.
And where does that stand?
It was part of the buffer variance application, and I denied.
Denied it,
variance
okay.
Variance application, yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Edge.
I'll stand by my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Rick, you didn't describe the mitigation plan much at all. Tell us about the mitigation plan.
I'll pull it up.
Brian's going to pull it up on the screen so you see it.
Is it this page?
Oh, you don't have it there?
Okay.
It's in the packet, I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would be an exhibit 14. I do not have the page number.
86 out of 117 is what I'm showing.
It's a possibility. It looks like this board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish Jason were here, Jason Walls.
Just do the
could
best
explain
you
it better,
can.
But it's a lot of additional planting, both trees and bushes and some wetland plants, a lot of material put in to slow down that velocity that Brian was talking about. What we haven't had an opportunity to do, because I offered in the application for variance, if the county wants more than what's being planned, we're happy to do that. But what Jason Wallace tells me is that this will slow down the, that's not Jason. This will slow down the velocity so that it will be the same, or he said even less than what it was before, and the water quality cleaned up, so that there won't be environmental issues. And I would say for the precedent, if this was the builder coming in or the developer coming in who did it, different story. I probably wouldn't be standing before you. But this is an innocent homeowner who has basically depleted all of his funds now to build the house, and with the delay, and it's, you know, if it stays denied, problem stays with the county. The real world issue here. It ain't going away. The house is not coming down. So what does that become, a crack house? I don't know. I mean, it's just going to deteriorate. I don't want to overstate it. But you understand what I'm talking about. We've got an innocent person here, and I understand Brian's statement. I'm sure it's very difficult. And I'm coming in here not blazing guns or whatnot. I said, I got my hat in my hand that I'm looking to the board to help us solve what is a bad problem. That's here. I mean, I get it. I agree.
Yeah, because I think we just dealt with one. It was in the middle part of the county where the guy had built the barn and he poured a lot of concrete, and we made him cut the concrete out and get rid of it and shorten his barn. It wasn't near the problem that this one. This one, I don't know what it is, $500,000 already invested in the property. I mean, it's a
Sure,
very nice
if not
structure.
more, right.
And I can't imagine anybody, and I'm not, Mr. Beadle, I'm not saying something bad about you. I can't imagine anybody trying to get away with it. I'm going to do this and I'm going to try to get away. You don't risk the kind of money that this man has risked on this project to then find and get. And Brian, I think you made the right decision. I think you made the right decision. With what you have, you made the right decision. But I don't see any way that I can vote to do anything other than to grant this application. I mean, Rick and I have practiced for 30-some years in this county. We were the
40
city,
now for me.
okay, 30, well, and I remember Peachtree City, because I was with Rick, and Rick was the city attorney, and we had porches, and we had made people cut porches off, and we always took a hard line, and I'm one of the hardest people to get along with on stuff like this. I think you were one of the hardest people.
I am.
But this is one of the few cases that I see, it's nothing but an innocent decision that was made to build a big structure, and they got almost finished with it before it was discovered. No fault on Brian or your office or anything like that. When you found it, you did the right thing. But I just don't see a way that we can do it. Now, the problem is this. Somebody's used the word precedent. I hate the word precedent because if we make this decision, then the next one that comes in front of us, what are we going to do? Because we've opened the door. And so what I'm saying is I'm not taking this as a precedence. I'm going to be my very difficult to get along with self on the next person that comes by, whether it's a driveway, because somebody's asked about a basketball court. I can't remember who the attorney was that called me. I don't think it was you, Rick, but somebody did. And I said, no, there is no way I'm going to agree to that. But this thing is way too far complete. Finish the project, landscape it, put the plan in place. It's not that we're changing our ordinance or anything like that, but I just think that this is one that calls for, to allow the project to continue. And I agree, you made the right decision, Brian.
Yeah, Brian, I think you made a good decision based on what your job is. But, you know, from my perspective, looking at this, I don't see this as a precedent, because if this was all lockstep, there would be no appeal process. There would be no room to judge an individual case on its merits. And so going forward, I'll do what I've always done and judge an individual case on its merits based on what I read and what I hear and hear. And that's what I've done tonight. So there's no way, you know, looking at the requirements in here that, you know, it poses an extreme hardship and then there's no other way to do it. I mean, from my perspective, that's exactly what I see in this case. There's an extreme hardship that's going to be put on the homeowner. And so for that reason, I'm going to vote to support the denial, or the overrule of the denial. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Jeff?
And I guess just so everybody understands, this is one of the most difficult decisions, at least I've ever had to make up here, and we've had to make, but I don't enjoy this one at all. I went through this. I've been trying to get as much information as I can, and I'm baffled that I see wiring, and, I mean, I see things in here that had to have been inspected at some point.
It was inspected, but not by the county. But understand professional engineers were inspected, which will, and Leslie can address this, which if ours, if they accept the engineers, will be accepted as inspections. But Leslie, I know that's your house.
Good evening. As far as inspections, they didn't have any inspections by Fayette County because there was no valid issued permit. So any inspections performed were by a hired individual representing the builder to perform those inspections.
So
And
when our-
let's just talk about that for just a moment, because we have this from time to time. Someone will finish out a basement, and they'll come to us and say, hey, we got a finished basement, and Leslie will look at them, and we'll say, hey, you got two options. You can either give us your electrical and your framing guys, and they can stamp certifications, and we can accept those, or you can peel everything off the wall and we can look at it. This is a radically different scenario. We've got 92% of this structure in a watershed, which y'all can override that variance, but this is a complete house has been built that hasn't been looked at by anybody or inspected by any of Fayette County in regards to inspections through the building permit, through building
Yes.
our safety department. So I hope they have a lot of documentation and they've got those certifications and we can walk through this, but I'm not sure this problem goes away if you just reverse this tonight, because they got an entire house they've built that literally hasn't been looked at by anyone. And I'll echo, Mr. Keller is doing a great job keeping himself in check tonight, but you know, we've ripped down, as the chairman understands, when we found that barn was completely ripped down to the ground and removed because a part of it was in the watershed. This is 92% in a watershed. So this is a very, very unusual circumstance, and my heart goes out, and I think we all feel very emotional about it. But at the end of the day, it's a structure that's 92% in a setback, and that doesn't generate a hardship by building something and creating the hardship. The hardship is if you can't build it on the property or in the watershed based on the parcel that you have. So a financial hardship can't be created because I've now built it, now it's a problem. So those are the things that you elected officials get to decide. I mean, it's an easy decision from a staff perspective, and I fully understand why it's coming to you to be overridden, but just understand that we've had people remove fireplaces, partial buildings, entire buildings, and basketball courts and pools over this very issue, and you're going to shift that bar a little bit. So just as long as you're aware of that.
I'm going to get a couple of questions. So any inspections that were not made by the county. This has been going on for about 3 years.
No, I think the construction, Mr. Otto, was done over about a 6-month period or whatever. It wasn't over years, but it was inspected. And again, I understand. I mean, we're going to have to come back and get all the approvals and whatever. So this doesn't end the issue, but this gets us to the next stage where, again, I've been told professional engineers inspected as they went through the process. So again, Steve, to what you said, yes, we're going to have to bring all that to the county, and will some walls have to be opened up or whatever? Maybe. But again, we can't get there unless we get this variance granted.
A couple of questions I have from an engineering perspective. Is the pool going to be built back there? I mean, I see it's excavated, or portion of it is excavated.
The pool was never part of the building permit, so that was
Right.
part of the citation process indicating that we had no pool permit, but the hole had been excavated.
Right.
The applicant would be required to apply for a building permit, in which would go through Brian again for the swimming pool.
Okay. So the other thing I would want our team of inspectors looking at this thing. I mean, some of the walls are opened up, some of them appear to be encapsulated with insulation and sort of thing, but I would like to require, of course, I understand, Rick, that's the next step, but I'm saying I want our team to look at the framing, the electrical, the plumbing, HVAC. I want it inspected as much as we would normally do. And if the property owner had gotten or the contractor had gotten a permit, a year and a half ago, we wouldn't be having this discussion. I mean, how many people do we require to get permits in our county that are building?
Every person.
That's right. Even the chairman, right?
Correct.
Even the chairman. So I understand where you find yourself, but, I built a doghouse without a permit, but I mean, other than a small insignificant something. I think in our permitting process is really, it's not punishment, but it's for the end user's protection, whether it's to making sure the AC panel is correct. And I'm as much concerned about the inspection process being ignored and circumvented than I am the encroachment in the wetlands. I too am torn on this because I feel Mr. Bell's pain on it, but so I mean, is there a way to provide parking that's outside the affected buffer and setback?
So the driveway itself and then the parking area, well, if the house was outside, the parking area would be outside the buffer and setback, but the driveway itself would be exempt from it, so you can get access to your home.
Right.
And if y'all grant this, then the parking would be acceptable, yes.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Do you have questions, Charles? Chuck?
I've got a couple, because this thing, I keep mulling it over in my head. So if this goes forward, it does create some sort of precedent that somebody could build, this is an extreme case, somebody could build where they should and come back to the board and get an exception. And I know I've been part of, I don't know how many of these issues that have come up exactly like this, but not to this scale, but like this. The barn that had to be removed, I met with a gentleman who was, if I recall, he was in his 80s, and that was one of the hardest meetings I ever had. But as part of our duty, we need to be looking out for the ramifications. I'm concerned about the liability to the county and ultimately to the citizens down the road with this house built where it's not, shouldn't be. Whatever ramification could be, I don't know, but could we be held liable for anything? Could the county be sued? Could something come up where, as a result of this property, we cause damage elsewhere, and the county then is the defendant in a lawsuit?
Well, the impervious surface could cause some downstream neighbors to have some issues with the water. That's a legitimate problem. That's why you have those buffer protections in place. It's a single resident, so I'm not sure that would come to be, but it is a liability. And then, of course, there's the precedent. What happens next time? How do you argue that it's different from this case? And that could create some liability.
And I think the big liability that I see is there's no building permit, there's no foundation, there's no framing, there's no mechanical, there's no electrical. We're going to rely on third party to do that, and whether we rely on that or not, if something happens and that house burns down and they say it's electrical, we're going to be in that lawsuit. If the roof collapsed because it wasn't framed correctly, we're going to be in that lawsuit because we're going to indirectly be validating the third party's inspections, which means we're accepting them. So we become part of that. It's one of the reasons why they have to go through building safety, is that we want to make sure that the foundation is correct. We want to make sure the electrical panel and the code is correct. It's going to require a lot of effort and time on staff to validate this because this house is completely built. We're not talking about a shed, we're not talking about just a pool. We're talking about a 3,800 square foot house.
So my final comments to the applicant, your health, potentially losing your home, and certainly an investment of a lot of money. And I very saddened to hear that. But the last couple of comments that were made in terms of 90% of the structure is in an area that makes it difficult for me to approve. Because there is a opportunity for a degree of liability, and I think it's higher than I'm comfortable with. So I have difficulties allowing you to occupy or for that to remain in that area. So this is a tough one.
Hi, I'm Louis White. I live at 1475 Fraser Road, Decatur, Georgia. I've known Mr. Beadle probably for over 18 years. I built his previous home in Fayette County. First off, I would like to say that there was no malice intent to deceive the county. We were under pressure by his bank because of the situation with the percolation taking so long to get it percolated through environmental at Fayette County. The requirement for the percolation and septic permit to be issued was based on the fact that we were instructed that the house had to sit at that particular location as well as the septic system field, which we followed based on the information that was given to us on the survey, thinking that we had 25 feet as opposed to the additional setback. The survey also depicted that it was a dry ditched stream, not stream, but a dry drainage ditch. So going off of that, we didn't know at the time that it was a perennial stream. I hired the environmental scientists to come out. We actually videotaped when Georgia was experiencing the heavy rainfall season, and it barely had 2 inches of water, maybe 3 inches of water in there. But the engineers stated that because of the vegetation and the overgrowth, the determination was based on it being a harvest location for mosquitoes and possibly tadpoles. But as far as over the period of time when we were getting extensive flooding, it never went beyond the banks. And in terms of downfield from the house or downstream from the house, there are no homes downstream from the house. And I'm not saying that to justify our situation at hand. We were under pressure, like I said, and I told Mr. Beadle, I think the best thing to do is we'll get pictures. We submitted the permit before, and then we resubmitted it with the changes in the footprint. I said, in order for us to deal with this situation without the bank foreclosing on you, let's get third-party engineers to inspect it along the way and then give that to Fayette County, showing that we had reputable engineers. They took pictures, and they were highly recommended engineers. The original engineer that did the site plan, Mr. Martin, actually died of COVID during that time when we had the COVID epidemic. The walls, it was mentioned that the house is closed in. The house is not closed in. The walls are open for all inspections. The framing is still open for all inspections. And it's not complete. It's probably, the bank looked at it themselves, it's about 75% complete. So it's open for inspections. And the insulation that is there, we had spoke to the county if needed to be removed for them to do a thorough inspection, we would take that out. In addition to that, the structural engineering firm that came out to examine the foundation actually x-rayed it and stated that it was, rather than using number 4 rebar, we put in number 5. He said it was overkill, that we put more than enough that was required for a residential structure. But the reason, as I stated before, there was no intent. I've worked in Fayette County before. The last house that I built is selling for $1.6 million. And I've helped Mr. Beadle because he stated this is his house that he wants to die in. So when the bank pressured both of us to get it done. We had to make a decision that compromised the obtaining the permit, but feeling that if we got the third-party inspections, that we could provide that to Fayette County to ensure that the house was built correctly.
Did anybody ask Fayette County if that was acceptable?
Pardon?
Did anybody ask if that process would be acceptable to the county? Getting the permits after the
The
fact?
inspections
Yeah,
from the third-party engineers were all presented to Ms. Leslie, along with the revised plans. I met with county inspectors at the house. We took pictures. We got the original permit application drawings, and we provided them with the revised permit drawings reflecting what was there and what was inspected, what has been inspected. And I was informed by one inspector that we would have to remove the installation where it was insulated to do their inspection if everything was resolved.
I mean, I don't mean anything, but it sounds like this is being done outside of the procedures that the county follows for every construction.
Yeah, the situation that we were in, and it was bad judgment on my part to think that because I've built in other jurisdictions that allow third-party engineer inspections to proceed during the construction process. Our problem was we were thinking that the permit would be approved because the last house I built, after getting the septic permit approved by environmental, we moved forward with building, and the building permit was issued. This particular time, I was unaware, since it's been such a long time, that the environmental consisted of two separate departments. So I was under the impression, this was back during the time that Stephen was the chief inspector, that once the environmental permit was approved for the septic system, that the building permit would follow. And that wasn't the case here because I wasn't aware of it.
And let me just state this for staff. There was never a building permit issued. There was no discussions that we're going to use third-party contractors. I think 3 years ago, we had a discussion at retreat about, do we want to use third-party inspectors to do this, so and ratify that work, to expedite some of the renovation work that was going on at the time, and the board chose not to use that approach. So third-party inspections after the fact have never been our standard, even when Steve was here. So in this particular case, there were no permits pulled. There was no discussions with staff. It wasn't until they wanted to hook up to Georgia Power and get the electricity that we were aware that the building was completely built. So this is all after the fact. And maybe they have the third-party inspections, and maybe all that will play out, and maybe that will work, or maybe it won't work. But this is not the process. And if he's built a house in Fayette County, that's not the process he followed before. We've never done any type of structure like this before. And this is a first for the county.
And if we would have followed the process, we would have found the buffer and the setback, and he could have possibly built a smaller home outside of the buffer and the setback in the buildable area on the lot.
I'm just sitting here and trying to think, it's very emotional. I mean, and I would love to be able to I've just made the comment before, sometimes I wish I could vote the way my heart feels, but I have to think of the entire situation, the ramifications. There will be somebody that comes along with the same situation. My first experience here after a month on the job was to have to deny a fireman and a bus driver, his wife, a rezoning because it was an illegal lot. And that took months, and that situation was rectified, but months later. but it's been the way I've conducted this is we have our processes, we have our procedures, we have our land use plan, and we follow it. And that is the problem when we go outside of it. We have issues that come up like this. And I feel for Mr. Beadle, I feel for all involved here. I can see oversights, but I'm just having a tough time seeing how we get all the way to the end, practically, with, it feels like not any real communication with the county on this. And then it puts the county in the situation that we're in now, where we have to decide whether or not to accept everything that led up to this. And I know this has been hard for our staff. I can feel for them, because we have an excellent staff here in Fayette County, and they really try and bend over backwards for the citizens. They really do. Can't always do it. And I really feel it's up to us as a board to support them in their decisions. This is unusual, but it's not going to be unique. And the best I can do is, outside of my emotions, is to vote to make sure to minimize this situation in the future. So I understand the votes for and the votes against this, but I can't vote to approve. I really would love to, but I can't. I cannot vote to override the staff's decision on this.
Charles, you have anything else? Any other comment?
Yeah, to address your comment on the walls, I see no closed walls. I see sheetrock that's in the house, but there's not a single piece of sheetrock that I saw in the pictures that were installed. The one wall that may have a problem, you got a marble wall in the bathroom behind the tub, but it looks like there's a whole section there where the plumbing was going to go. So the plumbing doesn't appear to be behind the wall. It appears it's going to be someplace where they can get to it relatively easy. And let's say that we approve it and they go through the inspection process. That's a different issue than what's faced right now. And if they can't get approved on the inspections they've got, then they're going to have to deal with the inspections that they've got that are not in conforming with the way that the house should have been built. I look at this house. I'm not a builder. I've certainly built my fair share of things, but I'm not a builder. It looks like a well-constructed, whether it's four times on the rebar, or whether it's 5 times on the rebar, or whatever. I mean, that can be, you put ground penetrating radar on it, and you can determine what's in the concrete. And if it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass. And if it's too thin, I don't know how they're going to fix that problem. But the electrical, the water, that appears to be where they can deal with it. And if it's amount of pulling out fiberglass, I'm sure Mr. Beadle would even pull out the fiberglass to let somebody look at it. I don't think that's an unusual thing, that somebody got a little bit ahead of the game whenever they're filling in the hole, and you got to pull the fiberglass out, or you got to pull the sheetrock off the wall so somebody could look at it and say, yeah, no, the electric would go here. I do understand that there was no permit pulled. I get that. And shame on whoever for getting this far into it without a permit pulled. I don't think that it was one of those situations where somebody was trying to do something behind whoever the inspectors are back. That one barn that I talked about where the guy built it, he was in a fight with his neighbors when he did it. It was no doubt what he was doing. And that's the reason why I got so hot about that one. It's like, oh, heck no, you're not going to do that. And I don't think that we got anything close to this. We got good actors on all the sides. And we just need to resolve this problem. But what's the next step, Rick, if you get a denial on this? Can you go to Superior Court if you get a denial on this?
Correct. That would be, Mr. Beadle's right. He could appeal the denial to the Superior Court.
Right. And so I can tell you, we're going to be dealing with this one way or the other. I think we let the man finish his house, go through the inspections, and move in, and I use the word precedence. I don't have to justify my vote next time somebody comes up here and he's got a similar problem. You know, I'll listen to the facts and I'll make a decision on the facts of the particular case. This doesn't bind me in the future. It just doesn't. I guess we talk about emotional, and you said you maybe didn't have enough information. Do you have all the information you need, Chuck, to make a decision now? Because if you don't, if there's more information that you need that's not been presented tonight, I'm sure we would just say, come back next month and bring more information. Is there any questions that you've got that you need to have answered?
What we're looking at is coming to this point and ignoring everything that happened before. Even if we do all of this, we're still in a misplaced piece of property that according to the rules and regulations shouldn't be there. So if it was just the house, but on a piece of property that was correct, that'd be a whole lot stronger case, really would. But this is a situation where everything is wrong, and I'm a little irritated that we weren't involved more. And this wouldn't have happened if we were, is the way I feel about it. I don't know how. I understand, Eric, what you're saying, because you know me, I will vote the way I think, but I don't understand. It's going to get harder in the future when something happens that we do vote no, or we do vote yes. And we're opening ourselves to lawsuits. We've lost some of those. So as much as I would like to, we've completely gone, we've almost closed the circle without involving the county.
I was finished until I was finished. If the applicant has another avenue, which has been suggested and affirmed, they can go to the court. I think it's important for us to show our citizens that our policies, our procedures, and our ordinances mean something. And they can avail themselves of the next step. The pressure is on us, and that's where I rest in this final analysis. Let it go to the next level, because we're sending a signal to our residents that will, and I do my level best. I can't say I'm 100% right all the time. None of us are, on weighing the issues and the merits of it on each and every application or issue that comes before this body. And so if there's another step, I would encourage you to avail yourself, but we need to send a very powerful signal to our community that our ordinances mean something and that we're going to protect the interest of them. Now, if we want to change them, we have a process for that as well. And so that's where I rest on my final comment. Unless one of y'all say something else, and I got to say something else. But thank you, Mr. Chairman. Those are my colleagues.
So we have a motion and a second on the floor to restate the motion, please.
Yes, my motion was to approve the appeal and deny the denial, but before I finish, I just see in the future that we're just going to have an abandoned house in this neighborhood. So that's my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. So all in favor of said motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. So do we need a motion to deny?
Now, we would need a motion to uphold the decision below.
Okay,
So move.
Second.
so we got a motion and a second to uphold the denial. Is there any discussion on this? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
You want to take a break? Sure, let's take a break.